And welcome back. This is K24 This Morning. We're still looking at the big stories of the day. You can get us, of course, as always, at K24 TV. If you want to tweet us, you want to get us on Facebook, you can also get us on that same handle, K24 TV. Alternatively, you can also SMS us. Our line is 21222. Let's get back to the big stories of the day. Good morning to Kasaja Javira, watching live from Uganda and loving the debate going on there. Very good morning to you as well. Obi Mteule, watching from Kitusuru. Let's discuss these issues. Economy mbaya bado na tunasikia tu BBI. Okay, fine. We hear on that. Bwana Mteule.
Reggae has stopped.
So they say. We'll be discussing the reggae in a bit right here on the show as well. We also have Gideon Onyoke saying hashtag K24 This Morning. Very good morning to all the panelists. Let's go. Okay, fine. Good morning to you, Gideon, as well. Keep them coming in at K24 TV. Want to switch gears and move to page 2 of the People Daily. Rogue police targets slum youth, says new report. Findings of research on extrajudicial killings presented to Senate gives shocking details of brutality. They go on to detail the places where extrajudicial killings happen the most, and jobless youth are really the targets of this particular incident. In Nairobi, like we said earlier at the beginning of the show, Dandora, Huruma, Mathare, Pangani, Kariobangi, Mukuru kwa Jenga, and Kamukunji as well. In Nyeri, the Nyeri Central Police Station. In Uasin Gishu, the Eldoret Central Police Station. In Mombasa, the Nyali Police Station. And as they gave the account of what happens there and forwarded the report to the Senate, really shocking details emerging. So much that some of these particular families who had to go and bury their kin actually pay for the bullets used to kill their kin at 3,000 shillings per bullet. So you can imagine already you have to think about how you'll get your child from the mortuary to wherever they're going to be buried. But on top of that, you have to pay the police 3,000 shillings for the bullet used to kill that particular individual, who's your brother, who's your son. It's really shocking details on the floor of the Senate yesterday, Dr.
Yeah, it's madness, huh? But before I comment on that, somebody has just sent me a small text. He's excited about our discussion on coronavirus.
Right.
And he's asking me, what are the priority counties that should get the lion's share
of the money that comes in?
The money comes in. And I think it is important that I tell him, in the way I have understood the problem, we have got 6 counties that should be the red-hot spots. And these include Nairobi, Mombasa, Kwale, Kilifi, Lamu, and the Tana River.
Right.
Now, of this, we could subdivide them into 2, whereas the rest are hot, but 2 of them are red-hot. The red-hot would be Mombasa and Nairobi.
Right.
Because this is where the main point.
Okay.
So we would like to encourage the ministry not just to be haphazard, because as my brother Murwa said, unscrupulous people are seeing a business opportunity, nothing else. So there will be a beehive of activity at Afi House, not for purposes of fighting the disease, but going for the money.
Right. So you see that the ministry is systematic in how...
They have to be very systematic.
Okay. Thank you for that point as well.
The issue I've raised is extremely unfortunate. I did not follow the proceedings in the Senate. Was it Senate or National Senate?
In the Senate.
In the Senate yesterday, so I cannot be very accurate in my contribution.
Right.
Allow me just to say how sad it is.
Right.
And then allow me to say congratulations to the Senate for taking up this matter.
Right.
Because all of us were either affected by the extrajudicial killings directly or indirectly.
Right. Ben, I'll come to you as well on this particular issue, because even as we talk about this and the shocking statistics and numbers given here, we ask ourselves, and it's been a question asked over and over again, who polices the police? Is it IPOA? Is it internal affairs? Where do we get to the bottom of this and actually start to tide this stem?
You know, Jeff, one of the saddest things that we have to come alive to is the magnitude of this impunity that has been continued to be witnessed. Nairobi is actually on top of the list of police brutality and extrajudicial killing. It is really disturbing that the police has chosen to a large extent to criminalize poverty. Most of these young people, we have seen even cases of police officers who are being prosecuted in Nairobi for just walking daytime. Like I saw one police officer who just shot a young man At 1 p.m., they were just walking. Two police officers are walking. They see two young men beside the petrol station. The police officer just pulls his gun and shoots the guy dead. We saw the tragic case of the other young man who was shot the other day at Mama Lucy Hospital, just because he's a border rider and he was attending to an emergency case. It is really frustrating and also exhausting to realize that we have been talking about police reforms as a country for the longest we can imagine, and the advent of the new constitution was anticipated to open up to these reforms, and especially focus more on training and also in terms of equipping the police to be able to relate to the public differently. Unfortunately, we still have a huge component of the service that operates with the mindset that it inherited even from the colonial times, whereby you had to walk around with your kipande. If you don't have your kipande, you are a criminal, and all those things. And you have seen even cases in the CBD, young men and women being harassed over the same. If you look at Article 244 of the Constitution, it is extremely express. And Article 24C speaks, in fact, 244A talks about the National Police Service is expected to strive for the highest standards of professionalism and discipline amongst its members. And C speaks about comply with constitutional standards of human rights and fundamental freedoms. And also D, train staff to the highest possible standards of competence and integrity to respect human rights and fundamental freedoms and dignity. And lastly, to foster and promote relationships in the broader society. These young men cannot become automatically criminals just because they are poor and they are out there trying to hustle. Of course, there are significant cases of young people who have been pushed into criminal activities because of the economic hardships that they face. But if we were to look at the last bit, 244E, in terms of fostering relationships, the National Police Service would be emphasizing on actually a program to be able to even interact with the communities out there.
And even community policing, what's your report on that?
Well, to a large extent, there's been a lot of success because, you know, that involves the members of the communities, whereby specific cases of, you know, there are hardened criminals, or there are people who deliberately choose to live their lives in criminal ways. Then those ones it becomes easy to be isolated. But we have way too many cases of either people killed by stray bullets or mistaken identities for us to ignore that and to imagine that so far it has worked. There is really need for emphasis on working with the framework, how the police engages the public. Right. In fact, that is at the bottom, right, or at the heart of what needs to be done. We can't have cases whereby police officers just walk in slums and in alleys and they just see young men and they start shooting. And you see, most of these young people, because of the economic challenges, can easily be reformed. And even if, in fact, the National Police Service could be focusing more on identifying strategic partnerships, whereby there are many, even private organizations in this country who have invested heavily in social responsibility programs. So the idea would be to encourage these young people to be put in frameworks that they can be earning a little income. But just going around killing them and even dumping some of them in rivers and in Savo is not really helping this country.
Dr.
In fact, on the point he's raising, it calls for a lot of proactiveness on the part of governors, yes, and on the part of the police. As far as the police is concerned, even internationally, the police mindset is to stigmatize. There's a lot of stigmatization to the extent that if, for example, you go to the U.S., extrajudicial killings in the U.S. targets black youth.
The black community, right, yes.
And if you come in this country, the same stigma is there. It targets youth from the slums. A youth in Lavington is less likely to be shot than a youth in Madare or Kibera. Governors. I'm yet to see a governor,
yes,
and I'm speaking to governors who have big cities like Mombasa, Machakos, Nairobi, Kakamega, I'm yet to see a governor who is strategically investing in social halls. You see these children who are being shot, because they are idle, they end up doing drugs, doing alcohol, and so on. But if we invest in social halls, children will either be playing badminton, they'll be playing chess, you know, during their free time.
Right.
You invest in free films. Then in the process, you are doing something about it.
Right.
But just governors to call meetings and ask to condemn the police and what have you, they have to work hand in glove, so to speak, if we must help our youth.
Actually, I wanted to ask, because the IG has said severally that it's not the entire police force that's a problem. There are few rogue elements within the force. But what people always ask is, with those few elements, few and far between as they may be, what happens? Because when you're trying to follow up, you don't know what happened to the police officers who beat the JKUAT student. We don't know what happened to the police officer who shot the border rider at Mamalusi. We never know the follow-up as to what happens there. And all we have is a repeat incident after that, and you never know, was there due process.
At least there have been a few cases whereby there has been successful prosecutions, like you remember the police officers who killed the young girl in, was it in Kwale or Kilifi? I think it was in Kwale some time back, and there has been several cases of prosecutions. We really must be able to laud the IPOA for the efforts they have been putting across. And also, in fact, Dr. you need to guide us. The independent medical legal unit, they were doing an exceptional job in terms of actually investigating this. It was really outstanding in terms of identifying and isolating these cases and following up legal action against the culprits. Perhaps Dr. will be able to guide us on that. But also, there's something I want to shed light on, Dr. that he has raised. And one thing we have to give it up to the Nairobi governor, Sonko. He has been on the front line towards the disarmament of youth, especially in the slums in this county. And in fact, on many occasions, he has sent out amnesty whereby the young people who surrender either the illegal firearms they have or who surrender the criminal activities that they have been undertaking, he provides them with opportunities, either within the county framework or even privately under the Sonko Rescue team. And most of the people, actually, most of the young people who work even within the Sonko Rescue team are people who have been reformed from criminal activities. So such efforts actually also can be very expensive because, you know, we are talking about millions of youth here in Nairobi alone. It's not something that the county can even allocate funding immediately to be able to address, because the challenge with Nairobi is especially on social amenities, and the governor has been on the front line. Even last night he was on Jeff Koinange, and I think he highlighted some of these issues. There has been cases of grabbed facilities that were initially earmarked for social amenities. So we have huge populations of children growing up in Eastlands where they have no place they can play football or even ride bikes or even just engage creatively. So all that energy somehow has to be dispended. Or to be expended. And how they end up is maybe they find so many ways to engage in drugs, in illicit and other illicit activities, including crime. So really we must be able to give it up to Sonko. And I think it's something that can be emulated just the same way Mheshimiwa was pointing out what Governor Ngilu is doing in Kitui on textile. We need just governors to be a bit creative in terms of addressing, because the challenges are unique. Nairobi and Mombasa and perhaps Kisumu are the worst affected because they are more cosmopolitan and urban. That cannot be the same challenge that maybe Makueni or Isiolo is facing. Yes.
You know, the point he's raising is very important. The issue that Sonko raised on Jeff Koinange Live about grabbed utilities. Yes. Look, you might not know it because of your age. We had utilities in this city. Yes. Cameo Cinema. Odeon Cinema. And I think
Globe Cinema. That's why it's Globe Cinema roundabout.
Who allowed these places to be taken up by churches?
Now, I've seen churches all over actually.
Why are governors sitting there allowing those facilities to be used by churches? I remember when I was at the university, whenever we could be free, the next stop was either City Stadium to watch soccer, or you would end up at Odeon Cinema. And the charges were fairly affordable for the youth. We have to repossess these amenities and actually reutilize them for social activities of our youth. These children, for example, you go on Tomboya Street, very many of them idling. Those are the people these kind of facilities can observe, and you move them away from crime. Go next door to Kiampu. The Governor Waititu, the one who was marked. He did a fantastic thing, and I saw it being verified. He was being verified for doing it. He spent millions of shillings in rehabilitating alcoholics.
Yes.
If Waititu was going to be remembered for nothing else, then that was the best gift he gave the youth of Kiambu. Because you go to Banana, and with due respect to our people, you go to Banana, and in the morning, the youth who are drunk, and it is not acceptable. And you look at the youth, he's well kept. It means he has been brought up well by the parents.
Even when you engage them, they speak very polished English.
Very good
These are
English.
very school guys.
Yes. But there are no social interventions.
So that's the gap that's lacking across the counties.
Exactly. And then you cannot blame the police. When the police finds that this youth is involved in crime, and they're supposed to deal with them, some of the youth, when they're being dealt by with the police, they actually resist violently. The reason for some of these killings. So it is a very complex thing that needs a multifactorial approach in terms of solving it.
So you can find your I need to wind up on that, Ben. I know you're very passionate about it, so 10 seconds.
2 seconds, actually. I think I would like to share a proposal that the IG and the Interior Ministry can take up. Instead of criminalizing these young people in the slum areas and all the other areas, why don't we encourage a framework whereby these young people who have been earmarked by the police, because they know them, who have been earmarked to have the capacity to either engage in crime or pursue crime as a business, to be automatically picked and taken to the NYS for training. They stay there for a year or for the 9 months for the training, and then they are deployed within that system. You know, there's also the component of, and this is an issue many people are not addressing in this country. If you look at the statistics we have as a nation, today over 70% of the young people we have in our jails are raised in single-parent families. That's a reality. In the US, that statistic stands at about 90%. So these young people may be lacking either father figures or community efforts to raise them. So pick them. Take them to the NYS for training and for the discipline and to be able to expose to the realities of how life really needs to go. Believe you me, we may be able to save a lot of lives.
And you'll remember during the tenure of President Kibaki, they actually took even
the street kids, the street kids,
put them into the National Youth Service. And it was very helpful. We must demand of our governors that being a good governor is not limited to building roads. Being a good governor means you invest into these social programs.
Absolutely. Okay, and we've heard that, and we'll have to move on. You'll learn to your views as well at K24 TV. I want to move on to an issue that seems to be gaining more steam and heat the closer it gets. This can be found on page 5, by the way, of the Daily Nation. Ruto allies demand Uhuru attend BBI rally. As you speak about it, you called it the reggae. Has it been stopped or not? That's the question being asked right now. Politicians seek to force the head of state to reveal who he supports between his deputy and Raila. They say if president does not attend, DP should be on hand to receive memorandum. As we move forward, of course, the day before yesterday, Governor Lee did reveal that the Nakuru rally would be the only one in the Rift. They'd combine both North and Central Rift for that particular issue. Governor Tolgo said there was likelihood, and sources in that particular area said the reason the Eldoret stop was cancelled is because they thought that it might be chaotic. Decided to combine all of them and have it in Nakuru. And now here we are with demands being made and ultimatums being made for the Nakuru stop of the BBI rally. Are we building bridges? Doesn't seem like it from all of these.
We are definitely not building bridges. But let me speak to the excuses being given for those rallies. The excuses is just failure to admit that reggae has stopped. Reggae has stopped. If you want to go and sell a good thing to the people of the Rift Valley, you cannot do it in one rally.
You cannot.
You cannot. Rift Valley is vast, and it has Kenya's highest population.
Absolutely.
So you cannot do it in one rally. BBI, reggae have stopped to the extent that even they don't have funding. I remember I talked to one of the governors. You know, they are friends. And they told us that while in Mombasa, one of the governors said that the PS Kibisho gave him 10 million shillings cash when they were going for the initial rallies in Kakamega and Kisii. 10 million. Now, that money is dry. That's why you saw. And for the delegates who came to Kakamega, they were receiving 3,000 shillings.
You can imagine.
3,000.
In Meru, we saw a list of 500 shillings.
It was 500. It's because the funds have run dry.
But some people are saying that it's not unique to have some stops cancelled. Nyeri was off the list. Kisumu also was put off the list for Kisii. And they're saying we're reading too much into this particular move of not having it go to Eldoret. They can bring all the problems and have them discussed in Nakuru, Doctor.
No. I tell you, the people of the Rift Valley deserve access to good information. And if the BBI rallies have got good information, they must go everywhere in Kenya. And everywhere in Kenya includes all the potential stoppages in the Rift Valley.
Okay.
Let me tell you, if you may compare reggae to a moving vehicle, moving from Mombasa to Nairobi, when that vehicle has run out of fuel, it has stopped.
Right.
When you do not have good tires, the vehicle has stopped. So reggae has actually stopped. And they are now looking for excuses, as you're seeing in this. In fact, as one of the people who occasionally speaks to the deputy president, I'll be asking him not to make the mistake. I would ask him if he gave me the opportunity, not to make a mistake to go and attend an ODM rally. BBI rallies are ODM rallies.
So in your opinion, he shouldn't go to Nakuru?
He shouldn't. The only reason why I would expect the deputy president to go to Nakuru is if he's going there as the principal assistant of the president, wakati ataona rais ameingia, na yeye aingie. Alafu hiyo mkutano iwe conducted properly as a presidential function where protocol will be observed, that the leadership of that rally on that day will be the president and his deputy, and not Raia kama Khalwale and Raila Odinga.
Okay, even as I said, let me come to Mula, because as Daktari says that, let's not forget that the whole orchestration behind the BBI was a handshake between the party leader, Uhuru Kenyatta, and Raila Odinga. But it seems like as they go to Nakuru, they have a different way of looking at it. You've had, as Daktari has put it, how the protocol ought to be followed. What are we expecting then as we go to Nakuru if already lines are being drawn in the sand moving forward?
You know, first I saw what Daktari did there, but it's okay. Mambo ya raia. But now, Jeff, and I feel good sometimes when I'm vindicated on some of these things. I have been consistent, and I will still state it this morning. The handshake was truly a noble idea in terms of really bringing stability and peace to this country. And the conversations went well until something called BBI was mooted. And from the outset, I was categorical that the spirit, the concept, and the intention of how BBI was designed was dishonest. We have to agree. It had components of trying to push a certain political narrative while also pushing exclusionism of certain sections or certain individuals of the population who are considered for other reasons other than the interests of Kenyans.
You said that, Ben, but everybody said when the report came out that it's a very good document.
That's why
nobody criticized the document after Boga.
That's why I'm wondering, and I've been asking. And even last week I had the opportunity to talk to a friend of mine who attended the Meru rally. And I was like, yes, the report came out. Initially, they even refused to share it with the public. Finally, 3 weeks ago, we had it even in the newspapers. All Kenyans at least have had an access to this report. And nobody has a problem with that. So I wonder, when we call these rallies, and when you listen to the people speaking at these rallies, the kind of things they are talking about are nothing to do with what is in those documents, but political contests that are about showmanship and people taking extreme positions on very small issues that are touching on this country. And it is very disturbing. My problem came when it became clear that, you remember after the Kisii and I think the Kakamega meeting, then BBI, we have been told it is supposed to build bridges and bring this country together. Then when certain leaders indicated that they wanted to participate in the Mombasa rally, they were given conditions that you must come wearing this kind of clothes, and you must come looking like this and walking like this and speaking like this. Then Mombasa came, and it was a disaster. Then we ended up also with the Kitui. In fact, that is where every Kenyan agrees that we lost it. Because we cannot be building bridges while we want to leave out certain people. And I still use the analogy I gave out. BBI and the proponents and the architects of this must sit back. And it's a good thing that reggae is stopping, so that they can holistically agree. You can't push a very narrow political narrative by pretending to make this a national issue. We have to agree. And as the Mweshimiwa is putting it correctly here, it is slowly emerging that these are largely ODM rallies that are inviting a few people who are friendly to that. And when you start seeing reservations being raised even by people like Professor Kibula Kibwana, who are some of the strongest proponents of this initiative. This week, actually, I think on Monday, I read an article by Professor Macharia Munene also, really pointing out the issues that this thing is ending up dividing this country more than it is uniting. If we cannot address those issues and come alive to those realities, it is going to stain the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta. And I don't think it would be worth it for the president to allow people who are playing political chickenery to end up destroying to end up destroying a legacy that he has really been trying to.
I'll get to Dr. because even as he says that the reggae has stopped, it had been taken to the corridors of justice, the legality of the task force. Justice Mativo said that it was legal, it will continue. The president used his executive powers to constitute this task force. How do you see this reggae stopping? Because even as you talk about it, it seems like Nakuru will happen on the 21st of March. They will have their crowd as well. They will talk the talk at that particular podium, and we'll move on to the next stop. How do you envision it actually coming to a halt, this reggae that we call the BBI?
You know, the biggest stop of reggae is not necessarily the absence of those rallies. Those rallies can always be there so long as you have some money to hire a crowd. But the actual stoppage is in the minds of the people. When I say firmly that reggae has stopped, it is because the church, the clergy, the Christians, the Islamic faith, the leadership is very clear. They have spoken to it. They have nothing to do with BBI. Then the political class. We have the political class that is pro-Ruto and the one that is anti-Ruto. This country is now divided into the pro-Ruto political class and the anti-Ruto class. Since the majority of the political class is in the anti-Ruto camp, it means that the political class is speaking. I know you're looking at me, you want me to justify that statement. Why the anti-Ruto political class looks big is because the governors who are being seen in those rallies are there for their own selfish reasons. They are not there because they believe that BBI is the right thing, but it's because BBI has become a laundry, whereby either your crimes are cleaned, or if they are not cleaned, you live there hoping that should anything happen, nothing negative can come your way. That's why they are there. Otherwise, the genuine people, the Mamamboga, the Boda, they have nothing to do with reggae. So reggae has actually stopped.
Let's take a stop at that particular point as well for our second break on the show. I want your tweets as well coming in. We have Karinga Simon who said, yes, indeed, reggae has stopped. He's citing with you, and he says, the people in Rift Valley don't even dance to reggae. So let's talk about how we can actually make money for the youth. Karinga Simon, we hear you. Continue tweeting us, of course, as well at K24 TV. When you come back after the break, we'll shift gears, take matters regional a bit. On the Standard's front page, Kenya wants Somalia against aggression after border war. In the Star's front page, Uhuru wants Somalia over border conflicts. How do you move forward with this particular scenario? We'll discuss that after the break.